Okay, this is CAD 212, class 21 on April 26th. Today in class, we're going to be reviewing for the final, and we're just going to go over creating sheets again, just so our sheets look really nice. Doesn't matter how great your design is, if your sheets don't come across properly or are hard to read, it really kind of defeats the purpose of it. So we're going to go over kind of sheets again, just to make sure that that's fresh in your mind and you kind of have a good idea of what you're doing. Basically, most of your creative work should be finished by now. Remember, this is in the construction document phase. We're just kind of wrapping everything up and making sure our construction documents look nice. The final project is due a week from today by noon. So if you turn it in before that, that's great. You're done. You don't have to worry about anything until the final. But besides that, we're just going to be going over creating sheets today, and then we'll meet on Wednesday as well, but there's not going to be anything new. Usually, even in a live class, this is the time where we just kind of focus on getting everything together, asking questions. If you've got anything that you need to review, you can do that. But that's pretty much what we're going to be doing this week, is just focusing on getting your work completed. And that way you can get it turned in on time by Monday, and you can turn it in early if you need to. So yes, important dates, obviously final project due noon on May 3rd, and then the final will take place next Wednesday, May 5th, and the final exam will be at 9 a.m. That way it'll kind of give you that extra time. Final's going to run very similar to the midterm. The setup is exactly the same. The only difference is that you're going to have more advanced stuff to go over. Including your Revit information. So let's kind of jump into our Revit review real quick. This is in Canvas already. It's under your files, under Revit review. This is pretty much almost everything that we have reviewed in class. What I'd like you to do is just kind of run through this. If there's anything that you are unfamiliar with or having trouble with, you have the next 2 class times to ask about it. So, take today or whatever. And then if you've got any issues, say if you forgot how to do dormers, come back on Wednesday or Monday and ask how to do dormers, because that's what those 2 class periods are for. If you're having trouble inserting an image, ask me then. So just review this on your free time and come back on Wednesday or Monday if you've got any questions on how to do stuff. But this is pretty much complete review of what we've done in class. Any questions about this before we move on? Okay, cool. And just so you can see, it is here under Revit review. It should be active. If you cannot turn this on, it should be active. If you're having trouble opening this, let me know, before, as soon as possible, and that way I can make sure it is active. I'll double check as well, but you should be able to have access to that already. All right, let's talk about today's class, and that's just creating sheets. Let's jump into Revit. So let's jump to level 1. So we have a lot of stuff in our sheets already. We've got everything kind of laid out, set. If everything's done and we're ready to go, what we can do is go back to Canvas, go back to our final project file, and you'll want to review your sheets that are going to be needed. Everything is laid out here for you. Your G101 sheet is going to be very similar to the one that you created for your midterm. We won't go over that again. We'll kind of go over our G102 sheet because it has to include the vicinity map, table of contents, schedules, and this other stuff that we've created. So let's kind of play with that for a little bit first. So remember, We're going to be using the E1 30 by 42. Everybody will be using that. So we want to make sure that gets loaded. So we'll come down to Sheets, right click, New Sheet, not loaded. So, oh, I did already load it already. So if we do want to have that in there, we get a load, title blocks, double click on that. It's already there, so just do overwrite existing. And that's the one that we're going to be using. So hit OK. It looks like this. So for our G102, oops. Remember, we'll include the vicinity map, table of contents, and these things. And you import those the exact same way that we did all the other stuff before. So I've got my door and window schedule here. Let's just click on that and drag that. Oops, click too fast. Go back to my sheets. Remember, I've got to change this information down here. So that's going to be a G102. General information sheet. You want to change the owner to Delgado. The project name is Final Project. We know the information that goes here. Project number is Cadd 212. Issue date is the day that it's due. It was drawn by you and checked by me. Same information that we're going to put on that. So for my door schedule, I'm going to click and drag that over. I'll drop that there for now because I can move that. And window schedule, I'll bring that over. The important thing when you're having these guys on your sheet is to make sure that they're all lined up and really easy to read. If you want to break these up, you can do that. Notice that they do have a little break right here. So if you click on that, you can make it into 2 columns and do it like that. And you further break it down if you want to. If you don't like the way that looks, you can just kind of grab this part and move it back together. And it'll just pull back together. So there's ways that you can manipulate this and make it look a little bit better. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So if you like the way that looks better than the longer columns, it actually kind of does. But sometimes it's a pain to move after that. After you break it, you think you have to move these individually. Oops. But I'm going to leave it up to you how you want to organize the sheet. Remember, the important thing is to make sure everything is labeled and that you have everything kind of laid out. If you wanted to put your vicinity map down here, you can do that as well. If you just wanted to import that, let's do insert and then image. I don't know if I have any images on here. Yeah. Well, y'all should know how to import an image. We'll just make sure that the image is on there and then the other stuff. So just organize this page nicely and the other stuff will kind of drop in along with your room schedule as well. Any questions about a G102 sheet? It's very straightforward. Site plan we've done before. We are going to need first, second, and third floors. on these guys. Let me just go over first floor again, and then just do some dimensioning on that, just to kind of give you a refresher. The next sheet. Oops. So remember when we did our first floors, we also have an interior floors here. You're going to need that as well. This is our usage floor. What we're going to import first is just our regular level 1. Here we're going to have to like scale that up a little bit. So remember, we come over here to view scale. Let's go up just 1, see how that looks. And I'll probably leave that just there. You can use my directional arrows to move it just a little bit, center it up a little bit more. And that's nice and centered, and it'll give me room to add my dimensions. Remember, do not forget your drawing tag. And a lot of the other projects, the drawing tag have been forgotten. So it's easy to forget it when it's down here. The trick is when your viewport is off, that's when you can move the drawing tag. And we'll just move that up, always to your lower left-hand corner. When the viewport is on, notice the nodes are available on your title tag, and then you can kind of shrink this down at this time to something a little bit smaller than that. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So don't forget your drawing tag. Another thing that would lose points on this one is this elevation marker is still on your sheet. So we're going to want to jump back to level 1. We're going to highlight and grab that guy, and we'll just pull it straight back this way. And then when we jump back to our sheet, it's off the sheet, because even when you print it, that's going to show up. So make sure that those are off your sheet. Okay, that's looking a lot better. I'm going to jump back to level 1. And just a refresher course on dimensioning. Remember, dimensioning is under annotate. We're always going to use a line tool for that. On here, you can pick, let's do wall face. That's going to pick that exterior wall line for us and make things a little bit easier for you. Can't change that. I'll bring that up to there. What's really nice about Revit is once we set that dimension size that we want, that scale size that we want, the size of our text is always going to be where we need it. So that's good. I'm going to go back to wall center lines for this one, just because it's a little bit easier for me to pick my center line on my windows now. I need to give myself a little bit more room here. Move that up. So we always want to dimension on our exterior walls, just to our exterior components. Let me continue along with my aligned here. So here. And you want to make sure that they are on the same line. We don't want to come back with like another one that's like right here, because that's just awkward. You want to make sure that they all stay on the same line. And once again, we wouldn't want to put this up here and have them staggered like that. We want to keep them all in the same plane. For your interior walls, your interior dimensions, you're going to do that on the interior. Make sure your dimensions start from the correct point. You can lay it out like that. Actually, I picked the wrong line here. I picked this border that separates the walls. I don't want that. Separates the room into different sections. I want the entire measurement of the room itself. Let me start that over again. And notice these are on the same plane as well. So we have our proper dimensions. And then I dimension this one. I don't want it to intersect with the door. So I could bring this one down this way as well. And then for this dimension, I do it over here. So they're all lined up. I just got to make sure that the dimensions start where I need them to, but they're all on the same plane. It keeps the drawing a lot cleaner. And it's a lot easier to read. And you just want to continue along that with the rest of your dimensions. Exterior dimensions only on the exterior side, and then your interior dimensions on the interior side. They shouldn't intersect. And then to your windows and to your doors as well. So for your interior doors, what you could make, you would be able to make a note that all, and it's typical that all doors are 6 inches from here. You could use that as a keynote. But if you did want to dimension the doors, you could go ahead and click there to here. And that way it would have 9 inches. So you'd measure from here to the door opening. Let's do the hall. Oops. So notice how everything's just kind of in line and it's just a lot easier to read. So I did notice a few staggered ones last time, so just kind of keep this in mind. One thing you will notice that kind of gets a little busy when we have our dimensions is that the dimensions intersect our window tags now, which can get a bit annoying as well. So what you can do is just kind of move those window tags out of the way like this. And it just once again makes a cleaner drawing. Some people like this because it's just one line and it makes sense that the window's there. Sometimes it is, there's two thoughts on it. I kind of like these kind of offside because it just makes more sense that they're indicating the window. But you can see that both options do look, both options are good. You can use either one of those. And once again, I'd start moving these drawing tags. These door tags. So they just look a little bit cleaner and don't intersect everything. So I'd want to move that as well. So let's jump back to that sheet and see how it looks. So it's starting to clean up and look nice. So a lot of time will be spent on just kind of making sure that these sheets look really nice. Remember, these sheets are what's going to go into your portfolio. So, and these are what people are going to be looking at when you go for a job interview. So you want to make sure that they are really tight and really easy to read. Don't forget to change this information here. Since this is our floor plan, this will be an A201. And then you need to update all this information here as well. This would be first floor plan. So we have, you'll do the same with your second and third floors. Elevations, we did that before. Those should be familiar. We'll do, let's take a look at building sections, how we want those to look. Let's jump back to Revit. I'll create another sheet. So for section views, I only have 2 I've done so far. So let's just take a look at them. So we've got this section view right here, which is the entire building. So that's fine. We can leave that as is. We want to keep this in hidden lines as well. And then let's take a look at the other section view. All right, this section view is not so good. A couple of issues with this. This image looks really weird right here. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I want to shrink this down, this up, and shrink this down so it just kind of encompasses just the stairs. But if you notice, the stairs look odd. Something's weird going on with that. So let's jump back to level 1. See what's going on with that. So with my section view active, I can see that the window for this cuts off right at this set of stairs. It's not even encompassing the whole set of stairs, which is why that image looks really weird. So what we can do here is kind of maybe pull this a little closer and pull this viewport back so it just kind of encompasses everything, including that back wall. Especially if you decide if you wanted a window, a curtain wall back here, you want to make sure that this is encompasses the entire view that you want. So let's just kind of click on here and see how that made a difference. Okay, that looks much better. Now we have our entire staircase in the image that we want to see. So make sure that when you do your section views, that they do encompass all the information that you want to show. And what I'd probably do to make this look a little bit nicer and just kind of compare the 2 things is I put in another section view. Here to here. That will cover everything. Drops that there. And that intersects that staircase, and it'll just give me this image here, which if I had my curtain wall created here, it would be actually pretty cool to look at. But if, say for instance, if you're at a point where you haven't done your curtain wall yet, but you don't think that is, if you do add your curtain wall here in this section, it will populate, remember, it will populate in that section view. So as you create the curtain wall, it will be part of this image. So let's kind of lay these out on our next sheet. Our elevations are going to be on an A301. Since this is a big enough sheet, you should be able to fit them all on one sheet. As you can make more section views if you want. Oh no, that's elevation. So A3201. Oops. Start section views. And we can start bringing those in. I'm gonna make this just a tad bit smaller. Once again, this one's in hidden lines. Oops, clicked too fast. And depending on the number of section views you do, you can just pull all those in and have those organized. Here, if I want to change the name on here, I'll go back to my section views. I can right click and rename this. And when we jump back here, we'll notice that that's updated as well. I want to make sure that these are located correctly under the lower left-hand corner of this. I'll click on this to make it active so the nodes are available. I'll shrink the nodes back. I'm just kind of lay these out so they're easy to read. Kind of keep those on the same line. I can move that slightly with my directional arrows. With a viewport on, I can shrink this down. That's probably one of the most annoying things about these views, is having to move this around. So just make it look nice like that. Actually, this is not nice because notice how my section view here is intersecting this drawing above. So we don't want to do that either. So we can move that down a little bit. Actually, to make this look even better, I'd probably jump back into that section view. There we go. Kind of bring that down a little bit. Kind of tighten up that one. That looks a bit better. Yeah. And then you can put a few section views in here. If you only, I think I've only asked you to do 4. So obviously if you're just doing 4, you can make these a little bit bigger, make them look nicer, just kind of have it laid out nicely. Still quite a lot of work to do on this one, fixing this drawing tag, you know, and just kind of arranging the sheet to make sure it looks nice. You can always refer back to that sheet set in Canvas to use that as an example. Let's see what else we got. Interior plans, all this stuff is going to be used kind of the same way. You're just going to import that into your sheets. So you're going to have A101 will be in your interiors plan. Your first floor plan, remember its first floor plan is only supposed to be the only one that has interiors on it. Your A802 will be your usage plan, your color scheme. A803 will be your 4 renderings, and I recommend more just because it does, you know, it's really where your project kind of comes together and kind of shows off your work. So I'd add more than 4 renderings and some interior renderings as well. I forgot to put that on here. One last thing I forgot to mention for our floors. Let me jump back to 201. On this one, I have the floors turned off. I think I mentioned this before, but I'm not sure. So I want to go over it again. So depending on the floor type you use, remember there will be floor symbols showing on here. So if you had your wood floors, there would be a bunch of lines on here. I think I already turned those off on visibility graphics. I did. So I'm going to turn them back on just so we can see. So for our final floor plan, we don't want these seen. We want to make sure that we turn off everything that's not necessary with our visibility graphics. So let's hit VV, and I'm going to turn off my floor patterns. And you just see how that's a much cleaner look right here. We've pochade the walls in the past. So what I would suggest is just pochaying these interior walls. Remember, you can click on it, make it active, override graphics in view. We'll do by category, by element. And we're going to come down to cut patterns. That's going to be a solid fill, and then you can change the color to black. So if we clicked on this wall and we did override graphics in view, let's see what happens if we do this one by category. Change that to solid fill. Change this to black. Hit OK here. OK. So on this one, I want to do 2 different wall types. So since these walls are different, I don't want the exterior walls blacked out. I just want the interior walls blacked out. So you can't use by category in this time. So we'll undo that. And we'll click on this one, and you can use your control key, and you can click on that one, and you can do them all like that if you just select those. Now we'll do override graphics in view by element, solid fill, black. And it did those 2. So that's the way you can do multiples at one time without having to include the exterior wall on that as well. Let's see. Let's talk about sites as well, and that'll be then we'll open the floor for questions. I haven't done my site on here yet, so let me just throw in a couple of elements. So I was just throwing a couple of trees. For your actual site plan, that's fine, but you'll notice how we have this stuff here in sites. If we jump to, let's see, it's going to show up in any of my other views. All right, so if, for your elevation views, anything that's in your exterior, if you in exterior site, you want to turn off. So when I actually put this on a sheet and I have this in my elevation views, I don't want to see this this tree. So we want to do the same thing that we did with the floors. Let me do that real quick with the sheet just so you can see. New sheet. Let me drag in, I think it's the east elevation view. All right. So a lot of unused space going on here with these elevation markers. So let's make this one look nicer. I can make this a little bit bigger. But I want to shrink down these over here, so I'll jump back. Let's shrink that down so it looks just tighter. And the same with this on this side. And I'm going to let it intersect that tree because I'm going to hide that tree. Now I'm going to go to visibility graphics again. And plantings. So it's turned off all that shrubbery and exterior components. Up here I'm going to make this shorter. And I'll go ahead and go to annotate and align tool. Yeah, we don't need to put that on there because we have our markers here. I was thinking it'd be good to see the measurement between here and here, but that's actually not going to help us. So you can just leave it as is. Let's go back to, which one is this one? There we go. Now I can move this back into place. Lower left-hand corner. And then we just kind of tighten that one up. And then you can just add the other ones. You could probably add one here, one here, one here. Yeah, anyway, it's up to you how you want to arrange it, as long as it's you know, on the same plane and kind of easy to read and things like that. So important things to remember when we do our sheets is to turn our floor patterns off. If any kind of exterior components, siding components show up on any of our other views, we want to turn those off with visibility graphics as well. And then you want to kind of print your sheets. So a lot of it's just practice, just kind of getting in here and just kind of practicing it, using your eye to see, make sure everything's kind of clean and easy to read, and kind of going from there. So yeah, just kind of get in there and practice with it and play with it. It just take it a little bit longer. That's why I kind of give you this time, this whole week, to kind of finish everything up. On Wednesday, we'll meet, but it'll probably be a short meeting, just to answer questions that you have or review any kind of projects that you have. And we'll kind of go from there, but we're not going to learn anything new on Wednesday. Any questions about anything that we've gone over in class today or previous classes, or anybody having any issues with anything that you need help with now, let me know. And if not, we'll go ahead and drop.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One about like what we just talked about, and a couple are just things that come up.
Yeah, no worries.
So for dimensioning has always been like this elusive thing that I always am just guessing at.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a general rule of like what needs to be dimensioned? I never know which features are you supposed to.
Gotcha. That's a good question. Let's jump to level.
Yeah.
So obviously you want to get your overall dimensions. You want to think about like previous classes. It even refers back to like your earlier classes, just in hand drawing with you're creating your dimensions. Here you're obviously going to get your overall dimension for your exterior walls, exterior side to side, the whole thing. And then So let's just do that. Let me just run through it as I would typically do it. So we need our overall dimension. And as we know, our largest dimension goes on the exterior, goes on the outside. And the smaller dimensions that we create kind of go on the inside layers, so to speak. So the next thing I want to do is do my windows. So obviously when you're building something, you're going to need to know the measurement from one point to where that window is going to go. There's a couple of different ways. I think we mentioned it before on how to do that. So one school of thought is to the opening, but that makes for a really busy set of documents. Lots of dimensions there, so they're almost redundant. So that's why you see a lot of people, a lot of plans that are going to be measured to the center of where that window is going to go. Because remember on your window schedule, you know the size of that window. You know what size window is going to go there, and this is where you know that center is going to be. So that's the point of measuring it to the center. But you'll see it done, both ways. So you always want to make sure that those windows are measured too. And I'm not going to measure to this one right here because we know we've got these measurements from this. This would be kind of a pointless measurement, so that's why I kind of left that off on that part. So you want to get all your exterior dimensions done like that. Same goes with the opening. Well, this one's a second floor, so it's not going to have the door frame. But if we were doing, let's jump back to level 1 real quick, you'd obviously want this measurement to the door as well. So and remember, you can make sure that starts at the right point. So you want that measurement to the door. So everything, if your exterior wall to exterior walls, and then your all your window placements from your exterior wall to window or window to window, have those laid out like that. Then you want to move to your interior dimensions. Obviously, you're going to get your measurements for every interior wall. So that way you know the space. Let me get that. And what I find most people forget is to pop these back to where the actual measurement takes place. So window measurements are on the outside, room measurements are on the inside. Since this door is kind of like hanging out over here, it's not a standard measurement. We do want to know the measurement of this door. So we go from here to here. Obviously, you want your hallway measured. Another important thing to think about when you're laying out some of these, especially for stairs, is it's good to have the measurement from here to the beginning of the staircase. I mean, this one obviously has a lot of space, but you always want to make sure that there's at least a 4-foot landing here per code, or whatever the code requires per building. So it's good to measure from the wall to the beginning of the staircase. The specific details of how the staircase are going to be annotated and laid out with the dimensions will be in a special drawing for your staircase. So you do not have to worry about doing the entire bits of the staircase here. That would be on a section view for the staircase, not this section view. And also, it'll just focus on the information about the stairs. There's a whole other sheet that'll be involved for stairs because there's so many dimensions that are involved on that. But for your overall site plan or sheet or floor plan, you don't have to worry about that. Just the main measurement would be from the wall to that first step. And then we can do from here to here. You don't want to over dimension. I don't need to put this one measurement from here to here. Depending on a lot of your doors, like if we referred back to our schedule, there's a section where we can create where the actual measurement's going to be. So it could be like a standard measurement that would be 6 inches from the wall. And it would show on here which doors would be, section to 6 feet from the wall. Oops. So the ones that wouldn't be a standard measurement, those are the ones that you would want to measure towards. So that all these are supposed to be like 6 inches, which would be standard measurement. But some of these odd ones that we have here, we want to make sure that we know that this starts at 3 foot from this wall. I could do it for 3 foot for that wall. I could do it to the center opening. They would refer back to the schedule to know that this is a 6 foot opening with 2 doors. They could have that. That's why we don't measure every opening for our doors, because that is also located in our schedules.
Is it typical to call out the shorter wall for something like that on the door? Or does it matter at all?
It doesn't matter. I just think it looks cleaner. What I do is make sure that I am consistent in my measurements though. So I'll probably make sure that this goes from door opening instead of center opening for this one. I'll just kind of move these in. Oops, not right. So you're basically looking at your exterior measurements and then your interior room measurements. And then if there's, like a door that you have set in the middle of the room, I'd put that measurement in as well. What's that?
Would you call out the length and width of every room on the interiors?
Yes, on this. Well, actually, it depends on the room. Actually, that's a good question too. Notice that all these rooms are on the same plane, so they're all going to have the same width to them. So you could just, it should be obvious for your contractor that all these are the same. So I would just do once here for this one, and then I do the width of each one this way. So if you can make it abbreviated, you can do that. So the same with these can all have the same measurement here. Because all these rooms have the same width, and then, measure the length of each one there. Make sense? Like this one would not have, I would do this one, even though I would do this one totally separate. This one would need length and width, and this one would need length and width. But we have, all these are on the same, they all have the same width, so we can leave that there.
Just out of curiosity, if you were creating a floor plan for like a house that's already built, would it be important to call out all the details just because things aren't always exact? Or would that just depend on what you're trying to do, I guess?
I guess it would depend on what you're trying to do. I've done floor plans that are like this before, that I've used the same measurement for all of them. But other ones, especially in older houses, sometimes things are off maybe 6 inches or something. It just kind of depends on that particular building as you're doing it. If they're all the same measurements, like right here, obviously they are, I would leave it there. I would just do one, because if you do it for each one, it gets a little bit redundant. I mean, and it's kind of obvious. I mean, sometimes people do it for clarity, you know, especially if it's a larger building. But depending on how much detail is going into some of these floor plans, you know, you don't want to get it too busy either. Because I mean, we're doing a very abbreviated one here. If we were actually, you know, putting like section views or detail views or things like that, it would just get a lot busier. So we just want to make sure that the drawings are clean and easy to read. So yeah, different floor plans and different complexities would require different, you know, different annotations for your entire floor plan.
What about like if a room has like I don't know, like a wall that kind of juts out, maybe for like a closet or something? Is that something that you would
Yes.
dimension on the floor plan?
Yeah, if you've got something that looks like this. If we've got like a closet over here, yeah, it would require different dimensions, definitely. Here you would do dimension here. Hey, why aren't you working? I'd probably do it from here to here. Make sure those are set correctly. You could do it from here to here. So you want to see where it starts to draw, where you start to build it, and how big it actually is. I mean, if things start getting too busy, you can just kind of practice on how you want to lay these out so they're easy to read. The main thing to think about is make sure it's easy to read. So this would actually be redundant because I've got a measurement out here and I've got the measurement in here. So it's really measuring the same space. So you wouldn't necessarily want to do that. You don't necessarily have to do that. Pick one. But I definitely want the measurement from this side here to here. So now when you look at it, you see that this space is actually, yeah, I like to keep the same, you know, either interior, exteriors. But I'm going to show you just there's multiple ways that you can notate this stuff. It's a little confusing because this is an interior measurement and this is an exterior measurement. So if you actually wanted this to be a clearer reading, you would probably want to put either both interior or both exterior dimensions on here. But they're both acceptable. This one, it also shows you where this wall should start, 17 feet from here. To make that a little bit more noticeable, you can kind of like pull that into this space right here. Notice just by moving these, it makes things a little bit easier to read. A little bit cleaner. Get a lot of intersection right here, so maybe I want to delete this one and do it on the inside.
So as
You
far as
wouldn't want that intersecting the wall, so you'd want to pull this down as well. So it's just makes it cleaner and easier to read just by changing those few things. You had a question?
So as far as the choice of whether you would dimension the inside or the outside of it, it's kind of just up to you whether it looks cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't do either or. I mean, because you want to think of it almost as somebody who's coming at this that doesn't know anything about this building. I mean, if you're doing floor plans, you know everything that's going on. You want to think about what's the cleanest, easiest way for somebody to read this, because that's usually where, you know, you get questions back from contractors and things like that, asking like, can you define this measurement right here? I'm not sure what's going on here. Can you clarify that? So if you think about what's the cleanest, easiest way to read this, that'll probably be your best way to get this stuff laid out. And I don't like the fact that this is laying on my section view. So I don't want to move that as well. I'd probably move this down here. Oops. Oh, come on. Sometimes I just don't want to work with you. So yeah, once you get into stuff like this, things can get kind of busy. Actually, this measurement, since I put this here, this measurement wouldn't even go to this wall. At this section, I'd move this up here. And the reason I do that is I don't want it intersecting this, where it was a little bit confusing here. Here it shows that it's more obvious that it's from this interior wall to this interior wall. It just reads a little bit cleaner here. So you get all this other stuff. You can see how it gets a little bit busy, especially when you start adding more tags and things like that. If you have door tag, if you have wall tags or elevation tags and things like that, it starts to get really busy. So it's a matter, I like to think about it as a matter of making sure it's really clean and easy to read.
Okay. What about something like columns or something like that, like on like the front facade? Is that something that you would put on the floor plan, or would you put that in the elevation view? Or
Actually, you would put that on the floor plan because you want to know where it lands on the floor plan. So let's throw in a couple here. So very big columns. So at this point, if I just had these random columns here, I do want to notate where they are on the plans. So you can either do it to the edge of the column, or you can do it to the center of the column. Just do it to the edge. And then if you just have like one or two columns, you don't necessarily need to make a schedule for those. So if you wanted to set the dimensions of those, you can do that. Yeah, I keep pressing the wrong thing. If we go from center to center. So here we know that, there we go, that this column will start 19 foot 5 inches this way, and 4 foot to this edge, and that is 2 foot by 2 foot. So we have the placement of that column, and then we know that the next column will be on center 10 foot 6 from this one, and it'll be set right there.
so for something like that, it's okay to switch from like the edge to the center line to specify.
Yeah, on this one, because you can do, honestly, you can do this one either way. If you want to settle on the center line, what I see is I want to know where the column starts right here. So I know I've got one edge and one edge. but here I can go from either one. I chose the go from center line to center line just because if I mark off this stuff here, then I can mark off this next one here. It's just, yeah, this one could go either way. If I wanted to do it like that, I could do it like that as well.
Also, so for on the interior measurements, is it less important to line up your dimensions versus making them more clear, like standing out? Because I noticed like for the 19 foot 5 inches and the 8 foot 6 inches, you didn't put those on the same line. Is it because it's easier to read that way?
On this one, no, I didn't. Yeah, that's a good point. On here, I think they're easier to read at this point. They're not necessarily going with the same, like here, I would scooch this one down. This is one line that you can read from, and they're all this is all kind of measuring along this wall, where these are specifically for this measurement to this column. So that's why they're not really aligning with anything else. These are all kind of measuring along the same line. These are all, just measuring to this point right here. I could bring that up right there and have that set to that so it can kind of clean it up a little bit. Yeah, I think that's just a little bit easier to read right there. So yeah, if you wanted to do it like that, this kind of intersects with this 4 foot. So, maybe you should bring it down here. So yeah, it's just a matter of like how you want to read it, as long as you think of it as clear and easy to read. Both of them work well.
Okay.
Any other questions, y'all?
Yeah, actually, I have a question about like, what is it, like the room separator thing?
Yes.
Whatever. No, the room tag. Okay.
Tag. Yes.
So when you're doing it inside, it's amazing. It works beautifully. However, I have outside like areas,
Mhm.
and like I tried doing it outside, and it was like, no, you can't do that because it's not inside. And so I tried messing around to see if there's any way I could tag like the outside patio areas that I have, but I can't seem to figure it out, and I don't know what to do about it.
Okay. Yeah, you could just use the text on here. You could just use text to type that in. But
Okay.
yeah, the room tag itself is just specifically for the room because it does define itself by a room bounding element. So it's not going to go on the outside.
Yeah.
But
Okay, that's cool.
you can just use text to, if it's that specific that you want it to call it out, you can definitely just use text to do that.
Okay, and then I have a couple more questions.
There's other ways that you can do it as well. We can use keynotes and things like that, but we don't actually get into keynotes at this point right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so window schedules. So my dilemma is that I literally have no windows, like they're all curtain walls.
Yes, they are.
And so like I tried making like a schedule for like curtain walls because like I don't know, I feel like I had to do something because like I don't know, I felt guilty. But like I can't make a schedule for curtain walls. Like it only does it for like mullions and I think that was it. So I don't know what to do for that. I don't know what you want from me for that because like my window schedule list is just barren.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So we're going to do, if we do walls and we do type, let's see what happens. It's not going to list our curtain walls. It's a good question. I hadn't, let me think about how we're going to do that for just curtain walls, how that would show up. Let me think about that, Kyle, and
Okay.
I'll get back to you.
No worries.
Don't worry about the window schedule for now, because I know all of yours are mostly curtain walls, but let me see if there's a way I can, yeah, let me look into that.
Okay. And then I just have like 2 more questions,
Sure.
and that'll be it. So like the section views,
Mhm.
I'm guessing we should probably dimension those too, huh?
Well, for section views, how they come in, we don't wanna, we don't need to dimension these to these walls right here, because we already have this. Section views really not necessarily, it depends on how specific and how detailed we're getting in these section views. We don't necessarily need to give more dimensions than we have right here, because on our site plan, we already have this dimension between this wall and this wall and this wall and this wall. So we already have those, and we already have our window dimensions. So we don't want to over dimension that. If there was something really important and specific that we were showing within our section views, then you'd want to dimension to it. So like for instance, on this stairs, and then, it's almost redundant as well, because we're going to have more detailed dimensioning on our stairs. So it's not necessarily that important to dimension to our section views. If I
Okay.
wanted to show this dimension, then I can do that and just go. So I know that I have a dimension from here to what this clearance would be here. So that's 4'3", so I can dimension that. But as far as the width of these rooms, we already know that. If you do want to mention like the height of the rooms, that's something else that we could add in. You could do that. So from our floor here to our ceiling height here, you could add that. This is something that I would put all in one plane. This ceiling hasn't moved yet. Say if this was a drop ceiling, you could have that as well. So we'd have a measurement from our floor to our ceiling. Keep those in the same plane. Once you get into like MEP class, the space between this, between your drop ceiling, say like at Delgado, and the actual floor above, it's called the plenum. If you need a measurement for that, you could go from there to there. It gets a bit busy and hard to read at this point. You don't need this. I'm just giving you that information. So that'd be like a plenum measurement. I actually probably move this. I'd realign this so it looks different, so it looks better, but you can't have that. So probably the only measurements I put on here are the heights of these rooms.
Okay. And then back to the floor plan. So like when it comes to like filling in the walls, making them like dark or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we're just filling in the interior walls, and the exterior walls, they stay unfilled.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that for this one. So there's different thoughts behind that. I just want you to, this is gonna, they're gonna show that they're different types of walls. So these are interior walls. If you wanted to do, you could even do something different with your exterior walls. So let's just take exterior walls, override graphics and view by element. If we wanted to show that as a different type of wall, say that's a masonry wall, or we wanted to, we could use any of these really. Let's use this just to show that it's a different type of exterior wall. We could do that. And now we have our cross hatching there. Shows that's more of a brick wall, where these are, and this is also something that you could include, we can include in a legend of wall types and things like that. So it shows that this is a CMU wall, and that these are interior walls. So it's just a different way to show different aspects of the building.
Okay. So like you want to see like the exterior wall not filled in though,
Yeah, you don't have to
or
fill
just
it
something
in. If
different.
you want to use
Okay.
this, you can. So that was just going to, but I just want to see that there's two different wall types. There's your interior walls and your exterior walls, and have them done differently. But if you want to crosshatch those, that's great. So right click, override graphics and view by element, and you can use whatever one you want, but I use this masonry. And that way I know the person who's looking at these documents knows that this is a masonry wall.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's ways that you can just use the different override graphics and view to determine, to show very clearly that these are different wall types. You can also use, wall tags, but we can use it like this as well. Any other questions, y'all?
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back on Kyle's question about the section views.
Mhm.
Would you call out like the window heights, like the sill, or
That's a
from
good question as well. I don't go into that much detail, but it is definitely something that you could show on your section views. That's very good.
So would you do that in a section or like the elevation view? What would be the better? Or would do it in both?
Honestly, I don't think we even need that on this one now. I just remembered that we do have that in our schedules. So if we jump to our window schedules, we do have the height of where that's going to be. You can also, if you wanted to be specific in your window schedules, you could go to your sill opening and things like that. If we jumped into fields, and we look down in fields, so we have the sill height of where that's going to start. So I would probably, if I wanted to do that, I'd include that in here. And that way my drawing's a lot cleaner. You see, we can see where these start from the sill height, and that's the measurement. Sill height is measurement from the floor to where that sill opening is. So that way it's a lot cleaner here. It doesn't show up. It's one less measurement we have to show for each window in our elevation views, as opposed to, So yeah, I would do this instead of putting it in my elevation views. But that was a good point to call out. Yes.
Okay. And I have one more question about this is kind of not really related to this.
That's okay.
With curtain walls, is there a way, if you want to do like an even grid pattern and you want to divide the length and the height, say I want it to be 5 separate panes or whatever for the grid, is there a way that you can just have it automatically do that evenly instead of you having to figure it out?
There's a way that you can do that with windows in certain ways. I've actually never tried to apply that to curtain walls. So let's play with it. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to do in a separate wall, just maybe to make it a little cleaner. No, it's not going to let me do that. The trick that I thought I was going to be able to show you, but now it's because, like, if we do stuff with different windows, we can do what you're talking about. Thought I had shown this to you, but if not, that's okay. So let's just put in a wall there and throw in some windows. So if we wanted like equal spacing in our windows, we could use our annotate. pick them all, and notice it has this equal sign here. If I click on that, it's automatically going to center all those windows with the same equal measurement, which is what it sounds like you wanted to do with the curtain wall, but it's not
That's a great tip
not
because
letting
I
us
was
use
fighting
that
with
option.
too.
What's that?
That's a good tip because I was fighting with that too. I was like, there's
Oh,
gotta
okay,
be a
good,
way
good.
to just
Sorry, I
make it.
thought I had shown that to y'all. So it's not going to let us do that. It's not letting us use that tool for here. So unfortunately, it looks like you're just going to have to do the math. I'll see if I can figure out another way to do that. But yeah, that's not familiar with that one.
Okay, yeah, I just thought there might be some like quick function to just do that
Yeah,
without.
there's always tricks. And there was a trick for the other windows, but not for the window that you wanted. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, and I also have one other
Yeah.
question. For exterior walls, how should the like the walls be set up between stories? Should they be like unconnected and like the full height of the wall, or should it for each floor have say like 10-foot, or if it's like a 35-foot wall, should the exterior walls be constrained to like the top, or should they be between each floor?
So people can do that either way. On these particular walls right here, they're attached to the top. I know that for certain ways, because if I click on this one, it's attached here. I can see the way the walls slope, and I know these are attached. Say if you just did, let's make sure that these aren't attached. I think I've got to detach that. So I'm going to click on this wall, hit detach top to base, and click on this roof. And it just dropped that to 20 feet where that wall is stationed at. Say if I have another wall type that is going to go under this, I can create another wall type and just have that wall up there. So it depends on how you want to construct your building. Some people like to do different floors for each one. Sometimes it's easier just to have the same pattern. So you can use either option, especially when you're creating your model, and especially when you're doing your rendering, because the rendering will come out where you don't see like any seams or anything like that. But you can do it either way.
Okay.
So at this point, I can reconnect the top to base here, and it would be one wall, or I can add another wall type in here on the top part. So if I want to just this top part for a different design element, I mean, that's just showing the design looks like. Technically, the wall, when you're doing like detailed work for your wall, will be one solid wall. There may be some differences in the wall when as far as the finish is concerned, but the wall is still one solid wall for your actual construction documents. It's just a way to show a different wall type and a different design type when you're creating your model.
But it will show like a line if you make it two separate walls.
It'll show a line on here, but it would be a line anyway because it's going to be two different wall types, But when you render it, it'll look better. We can just do that real quick.
On the rendering, it wouldn't show the line if you made it.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of times especially if you've cut these walls vertically or horizontally, you'll notice that sometimes you can see different those different lines, how those pop in and there. But when you actually render it, they disappear. Because remember, these aren't the views that are going to be going to the contractor or anything. It's not this view. So if there's a line along here, that's not a big deal. If we render it, that view is going to be going to just going to be showing what the building looks like in its final, or it'll be going to sell the building to the person that you're trying to sell the design idea to. But the actual construction part of it, how the wall is constructed, will not show that either.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, y'all? All right, if there's no other questions, we'll just go ahead and end class. I'll get this uploaded. We'll have class Wednesday, and that's just going to be to answer any questions that you have in regards to the final and answer any questions that you have for anything else. So I'll see you Wednesday morning, but we have nothing new planned. Just continue to work on your drawing and let me know if you have any questions. So have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Bye.